Well, I'm standing on the Mount of Olives overlooking the historic center of Jerusalem. You can see the terraces on which the city is built. Now, this city actually dates back 3,000 years. If you think of the time of David, about 1,000 years before Christ was even born. That is when the city was established. Initially, down in the ravine, the settlement was built. Of course, David dreamed of building a temple on this location, but that never happened in his lifetime. In fact, his son Solomon built the temple, and it stood right below us here for over 4 centuries until it was destroyed by the Babylonians. Of course, there's so many places of historic importance in the city of Jerusalem. The golden dome that you see behind me as a real centerpiece of the skyline is the Dome of the Rock. Now, the Dome of the Rock is the traditional location where Abraham offered up his son Isaac, or in the Islamic tradition, this is where Abraham offered up Ishmael. So there's great historic importance for not only the Judeo-Christian tradition, but also Islamic tradition. Jerusalem is a walled city. Now, the city still has the historic wall surrounding it, and many, many thousands of people live inside the walled portion of the city even today. You can actually walk the wall. It is about 1 kilometer on each side, so if you want a good 4-kilometer walk, you can get up on the wall and walk the entire perimeter of the city. This has got to be one of the greatest panoramas, one of the most recognized locations in all of Israel. But I'm excited to go down and paint right at the Garden of Gethsemane, just above the garden. So I hope to find a subject matter right there that will include a little bit of the panorama and also feature some of the olive trees. That's where we get the name, the Mount of Olives. Make sure I got this thing equalized out, just to keep it flat. I took up painting when I was a young boy, and first painted with watercolors and saved up, bought my first set of oil paints when I was 12 years old. And the minute I started painting with oils, it was just like a duck taking to water, I suppose. I just felt like I had an instinct for doing it. I just could pick up the brush and create exactly what I would see in my mind. And I just fell in love with oil paint, and I never wanted to go back to other media. And occasionally I have dabbled with acrylics and watercolors and other media, but I like the lushness of oil. It's got that dimensional quality to the paint where you actually see brush strokes, and that gives such a nuance to the artist's ability to create form and depth, and I love to create deep space environments. Well, you know, wherever I travel, I'm always getting ideas for new paintings. As I look out over a vista like this, it's just so obvious that there's just history here. This is more than painting color. This is really capturing history. And the excitement that I feel is by painting it right on location, you're actually a part of the history of this place. It has come to life for that moment, for those few hours that I stand here. And this painting, when it is completed, will be a document of a place and time. It will be a moment of my life intersecting with a moment in the life of this beautiful city. As I start to work, I initially try to sketch in using a color that would be suggestive of a color that will be absorbed later. I'm using blue as a sketch in this case because there's a very cool undertone to a lot of what I'm looking at. And I'm going to paint it as a sunset view, but I want to sketch in the basics of the olive trees and the garden. And then I will begin to block in with actual color, the actual body color that will form the subject. notice I'm starting to put some sunset colors in. What I'm going to do is anticipate what is going to happen to the landscape. I'm actually going to create a sunset impression because that's really what I feel when I'm looking at this view. It's late afternoon and I know the light is going to be changing, and eventually we're going to start to get the sunset radiance over the city. That's what I really want to get in this painting. So I'm introducing some color in an imaginative way in anticipation of what will happen with the sunset. I also think that because the subject is essentially a panorama with very little foreground interest, I need to get more interest into the sky. So I'm going to create a nice, interesting sunset sky. So as I'm working, we're hearing the chanting of the Muslims with their call to prayer, and it kind of makes a timeless feel to this atmosphere here as I'm working. Of course, I've always said that I view my creative work almost as a form of worship, in that you use a talent that is hopefully God-given, a talent that you use to try to create something that you can share with others. It's a way of giving back with whatever talents you have. My mother always said, what we do for others is, with our talent, is a way of giving back and thanking God for that talent. And I think all of us have talents in different areas. As a painter, I have always thought to myself, how can I take whatever I create and share it with people in such a way that it brings them joy, brings them meaning. And of course, here in the Holy Land, these locations have deep meaning to countless millions of people. And so it's a great honor for me to come here for the first time as an artist and to capture what I am finding. Then, of course, take the paintings back and share them with people who may not get the chance to come and visit these places, but who through those paintings can visit them in their imagination. So this scene that we're looking at is a classic view. This is the hillside where Jesus himself and the disciples would have walked and looked out on this view. Of course, many of the relics and the architectural factors that we see in the distance now would not have been there. It was much diminished at that time when Christ was here. And of course, the olive grove would have been here. Some of the trees that are growing here now might even date back, maybe not to Jesus, but they could date back hundreds of years. We have seen, as we've been here, that the preservation of history is of prime importance in Israel, and anything that has importance is enshrined and protected. And so you can actually visit locations that date back thousands of years, and in many instances you can see them literally as they would have been during Christ's day. To me, oil paint is the true master's medium. You can create transparent effects and glazings that are very subtle, as well as creating rich color that runs the entire gamut of any color you might be able to conceive of. So oil paint is truly a timeless medium. You're creating paintings in the same materials that were used by artists in the Renaissance and even beyond that. And something about that timelessness and quality that oils have, I think, gives the painting even that much more emotional charge, because it is truly possible to create a work of art that endures through the generations and is something that can be seen by people many, many years after the artist is gone.